Hey, Tara Strong here, and you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your Cinema Geeks, Optimus Solo, and joining me today is Ladies First Hardcane D. Mandy.
Spit it out, bro.
All right, movie revolt, Dan.
How's it going?
Not too bad. I'm just trying to say everybody's names without fumbling too much here.
Matt mentioned the Cubs game in pre-record, and now he's totally fucking frazzled because he has to wait until the end of this to go see the rest of the game.
I didn't even say anything. I just said the Cubs were happening. I didn't even say...
Do you hear how mad he got? Like, don't say anything.
He did. He freaked out. It's hilarious.
Have you ever heard Kevin freak out before?
I think they just scored a touchdown. No.
Oh, shoot. It's like 7 points. That's an easy lead.
Anyway, we are here to continue, against our will, to continue our process through the video game film. Man, this is terrible. All the movies based on video game films, and we thought, when we started with some 80s cheese and whatnot, that we would find some diamonds in the rough along the way, and I don't know if that's something that we should continue to hold out hope for, because we have entered the segment of the series that will be dealing with UA Bowl movies. Today we are talking about the first of those, House of the Dead, from 2003, and obviously, like I said, directed and produced by UA Bowl. Screenplay by Mark Altman, Dave Parker, story by Mark Altman and Dan Bates. This is based on the Sega House of the Dead game series. And usually what we do when we talk about these video game films is we start off with our knowledge of the actual games that they are based off of. I have already kind of shown my hand a couple weeks ago that I was going to be pretty non-existent for this part of the discussion from here on out because I just lost track of video games, but I'm interested to see if any of you guys had experience with the House of the Dead video games. So let's start with Matt. Matt, did you ever play them, or what is your knowledge as far as the House of the Dead video games?
I have, and I would bet money you have too, you just don't remember, because House of the Dead started off as arcade light gun games, and I know we had them in our town. I was assuming you lived in the same town as me, I could be wrong. And we definitely had them
Kevin
here.
didn't have anything but one gas station in his town and no stoplights.
My specific town had no stoplights and no fast food.
When did you move to the bigger towns?
Not until after college.
Oh, well then, yeah, you definitely didn't experience it, I guess.
But we were at Aladdin Palace in the mall, weren't we, Matt?
Yeah, was that what that was called?
Yes.
I just called it the mall arcade. But yeah, we had the mall arcade, but we still have Nickel World. And I'm sure if you went to Nickel World tomorrow, they'd have at least one of the House of the Dead games.
So did you play them just in arcade, or did you play any of the Sega ones?
Just in the arcade. But I imagine they were still Sega published, just not on a console.
Gotcha.
And they're actually on Wii, if you want to play them that way. You can buy them on the Wii Virtual Console.
Interesting. Amanda?
I've only played the arcade versions.
Liked it? Didn't like it?
Yeah, dude, I crush it at any light gun games.
All right, a light gun game fan. Dan, are you familiar with all these arcade shenanigans?
I did. I didn't actually. I was the opposite. I didn't play it in the arcade. I played it. I think a friend had it for the Dreamcast or PlayStation, one of the two, and I played a great deal. Though, unlike I never really paid attention to the story very much. I kind of just clicked the gun through that as quickly as possible because I wanted to shoot things. Also, was not very good at it, so I never got very far. So that's the other thing.
So the question, guys, is it the worst video game ever played?
No, it's not.
Made? Okay.
It's not, sir.
So that should answer our question as far as how well did the movie resemble or depict the actual video game.
Dude, I don't even know if this is the worst UA Bowl film. You better check yourself.
Before you wreck yourself.
This is not setting the bar too high for the UA Bowl retrospective that I'm sure will never be done.
Oh, next.
This is commonly referred to as one of the worst films of all time, and we are here to tell you if that is true or not. But before we get to the actual film, is there any resemblance to the video game whatsoever that you saw while you watched this film, Amanda?
I don't know. It was like opening credits. I think that might have been actual like fucking gameplay.
Opening
Well,
credits.
I know there was
They something that throughout.
Every like there was like a timer, and it didn't matter what scene it was or if it had anything to do with anything. It was like, we have hit the 300-second timer. We need to show you a cut of a video game picture.
I think it was just anytime they didn't know how to change scenes, they were like, just throw in 3 seconds of video game footage.
It was so distracting, and it was so, like, the graphics of the video game are so old and like retro that it's just, I don't know.
It's like when you're doing a PowerPoint and you have to do the transition slides.
But they're doing it so fast that you can barely even tell if it has anything to do, like, you're like, is this the video game, like, version of what's going on right now on the screen? Like, they're showing us this is what it looked like in the video game, but it happens so fast that you really have no clue. So I guess they had that in there, Matt. Was there other things about the game that you saw translated into the film?
Is that aimed at me or her?
You.
Well, if you know anything about the video game, there's a reveal towards the end that one character is actually the character from the video game, and this is a prequel to the first game. But other than that, you really have to have deep House of the Dead knowledge for any of this to resonate with you from the video game. But that's just, like, we could talk deeper about Uwe Boll and how he does things, and how he does things on purpose that are terrible.
Before we get to that, Dan, did you have anything that you saw that reminded you of the gameplay in any way, shape, or form?
There were people in the movie, and there are people in the game. The acting was just as good as the game, if not better, in the game. So they got that going for it. It didn't even have a house, so that was...
Wait, I thought that one thing I wrote down that creepy building in the forest was a house.
There was a building. There was a shack or like a building. I don't know if I consider that a house.
I guess
dead people can't really afford mortgages, all right? So they had to work with what they had.
And I don't think they actually went to an island. I'm pretty sure they were in a lake, and then they said it was an island. I think they couldn't even get their land masses correctly. But yeah, no, there wasn't, unless they were legitimately throwing scenes from the movie into the game into the movie, even though it resembled nothing on screen whatsoever. But yeah, like I said, I don't even remember much of the story of the House of the Dead. Like, I just was shooting things. Like, it was like Time Crisis. I didn't really care about the story. I just wanted to beat the game.
To give you guys some numbers here, the budget for House of the Dead was $7 million.
Really?
Yeah, $7 million. And apparently they made it back. I don't know if this is international box office. It has to be. It can't be just domestic. But it says they made $13 million, 13.8. As far as Rotten Tomatoes go, 4%. 4%.
That's 3% too high.
It ranked, Rotten Tomatoes actually ranked it 41st in the 100 worst reviewed films of the 2000s. So, it claims that it's a moderate box office success. And this actually, there's two conflicting reports in the same article, because one of them says its budget's $7 million, the other one says its budget was $12 million. Which means it would barely have made back that. So I don't know which one of those is the actual correct number. Matt, I cut you off though.
I was gonna say one thing, and I can't speak to this because I haven't done my research, so I don't know for a fact that this is what it said. But when the Movie Boys did this, one of them had actually interviewed Uwe Boll, and they had done a lot more research, and they said that he exploits a thing in German tax code where if you make a movie that doesn't make its money back or barely makes its money back, it ends up being like a huge tax write-off or something for the studio, and it ends up getting the studio ultimately makes a lot more money than if they had spent $60 million on a movie. And so, like, that could be his goal, is to barely make budget or not make budget.
That's bizarre.
So you purposely make shit?
Yes.
It's
That's
like
terrible.
It is the live
movie,
the live version of The Producers. Yes.
Yeah. It's like when Disney makes a lot of money on Star Wars, but if you get like a movie that bombs, you can you'll be able to keep some of that profit because you have this movie that was unsuccessful. So you get this guy to do this movie and make us watch it and regret most of it.
Man, I don't even know how much we want to get into this, but let's turn our attention to the actual film itself. Obviously, it's terribly reviewed, talked about as one of the worst films of all time. Dan, I'll just let's start it with a simple question: is this the worst film that we've covered so far?
Oh yeah, that's not. Yeah, like you mean like ever in the history
in the video game,
any movie ever done by Geekcast Radio? Yes, that answer is correct.
Amanda, do you feel as strongly in your initial reaction to this film? Is it one of the worst films ever?
Quite possibly, yes. And the thing is, I remembered, liking this movie, but apparently I was, high or something all through high school, and I thought this was cool. Because this movie was no. As soon as it started, I was like, Matt was right. Because I remember, tweeting us something like, this is awful, and none of these characters are likable, and I was like, Matt was right. I even think I have that in my notes 3 times. Matt was fucking right. Apparently it's impossible for me to find anything awesome in this movie because there was nothing likable about it whatsoever. I don't think there was anything redeeming about it or the characters, or I don't think there's anything that you could pick out of this movie that you're like, yeah, that was alright, I could dig that. No. All my notes are just shitting on this movie. I just shit all over this movie.
Matt, that kind of is reminding me of what you said initially about the characters in this film.
That's what I just said.
You were saying nothing was redeeming, but like I said, that reminded me of what Matt was saying about the actual characters. There was not even a character that was redeeming or had anything good about it. Matt, after you've had some time to sit on it, is that you still sticking by what you were saying originally, and this is one of the worst films you've ever seen?
Totally. And I mean, it's really easy to say, it's bad, the characters are unredeemable, and pass it on. Oh, this is bad, the storyline's terrible, and pass it on. But, so I want to be a writer. I went to school to be a writer. I listen to writing podcasts. I read writing blogs. I try everything I can do to be a better fictional writer. And so when I sat down with this movie, I set out to write down all the beats, all the plot points, and figure out what makes it work, what makes it not work. And one thing that you're supposed to do as a writer, if you want to make an interesting story where people like the characters, is usually you want to have a competent character who then gets taken out of their element. That's the number one most common way to write a story. And if you're just oh, we've got $3 million, let's slap together a story, that's what you should do. Standard 3-act story with a competent character that gets taken out of their element and has to grow to become a new person. Very simple concept. At the very beginning, everyone's incompetent and no one's likable. There's one competent character throughout the whole movie, the brunette, who left her boyfriend to become a fencer, I guess? and she's the only competent character, but she's so mean to every single person around her, she's not likable. There's no one in this movie that you can relate to or like or enjoy.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement. And that's my problem right now is, we all have these notes, or some of us might have these notes, and I have a whole page, and it's what is the point of going over all of these notes? No one that watches this film can get, is there anybody that defends this film? Is there a House of the Dead defender out there that we need to,
shut down?
Go into detail on why they should not like this film? But
is there a House of the Dead truther out there that's no, this is a legitimately good movie? I mean,
it's every aspect of filmmaking is bad in this film. From the acting to the writing to the dialogue to the editing, it's not just no redeeming characters or no competent characters. There's no redeeming quality of the entire film. I could not find anything to write positive on this entire sheet of paper.
That's what I just said.
I know. I'm agreeing with you. I'm reiterating.
It's like a Skinamax movie on Cinemax with less dignity and sad nudity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's right from the beginning, you know it's going to be bad because they have narration that literally tells you everything that's about to happen over the next however long this ungodly movie is. Oh. You immediately in the first scene with your voiceover tell me that none of these characters are going to live. So what is the point of me watching any further?
It's great though, because like the voiceover starts off as like, "Man, things have really gotten bad over the last 3 days," and then it's like credits, and then it cuts back to voiceover dude. This is this guy, and here's 10 things about him. This is this other dude, and here's 5 things about him. This is my ex-girlfriend. She dumped me to become a fencer, but don't worry, that's not foreshadowing to the very last scene where she can't even win a sword fight.
And it's like, in the stuff that they're saying in the voiceover is not even true. Like, they're like, here's Simon. He got the looks. And it's not even a good-looking dude. Like, what are you talking about? At one point, what did they say? They make a comment that he has a Tom Cruise smile but a Rain Man brain. That line is in the movie. That line, and the dude did not even do anything dumb anywhere near that line to make it.
Whoa! Isn't that dude who's all like, "Hey, there's a boat covered in zombies. I'm gonna jump in the water." Isn't it that the same dude? He did some dumb shit.
No, I'm saying like in that moment, like he had just done something that he had just done an action that wasn't necessarily dumb, and then they make the comment like.
But it says Rain Man brain. Like Rain Man had
Tom Cruise smile with a Rain Man brain.
Rain Man at least could like do stuff. Like he was, what you call it?
Yeah, he's a savant.
Savant, yeah.
I mean, the dialogue in this is just so. It's like what Dan was saying. It's like the dialogue you would expect to hear on like something on Showtime or Cinemax or something like that. That's the quality of dialogue. It's so bad.
They had one of the worst. God.
They did get 2 actors that knew what they were doing. In Captain Kirk and his creepy first mate. Those are 2 actual actors that have actually done work that were totally... Well, the first mate was totally phoning in. Ron Howard's little brother, I think.
Clint Howard.
Yeah, Clint Howard. And then, like, Ron, get your brother, and you need to... Like, what's going on, man?
I thought for sure they were setting that character up to do something cool, and it just never happened. Like... Dan, you were saying something, or Matt, did you finish your thought on that one?
Nope, that's good. Dan goes.
There is the sequence in this, which is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life, movie-wise, and like where it's like where somehow they all get magical martial arts powers, and they're walking with the gun, like they're walking out to fight all the zombies. It goes on for I felt like 30 minutes, where like they all get these like shots at like it's like a video game where they like he's doing the zoomer camera around them, zooming as they're coming out with all their guns and trying to fight, and it goes on forever. And then by the end, like the amount of cuts that were in that sequence, like legitimately, I don't think you can physically count them. Michael Bay is like wow, that's a lot of cuts. Like it was like
right
every like 3 seconds, and by the end it was just like a strobe light. And I'm like, what is this thing? And that's when he's throwing in scenes from the video game. It was just like, why is this? Like, who thought that was like a good idea? And I could see him probably doing it and thinking, this is the most kick-ass thing ever made. And it's just like, it is so bad. I don't know if you know what scene or if you just all blocked it out, which would be perfectly acceptable. But
I've got 2 very important things to say about that scene. In my notes for that scene, I wrote down, the only thing anyone but the brunette is good at is killing. Which is accurate. And then 2, when they do like the weird zooming, like they each character gets their own weird circle zoom where it's like, look at this character, they're badass, and in every single one of them, they're holding a different gun. Oftentimes one that they don't even have on them. Like in one scene, like a guy's got a Desert Eagle, and when he picks it up, like Kirk's like, oh, Desert Eagle, very nice, and he's like shooting the Desert Eagle, and then it's like. It cuts to America or Glory, whatever the hell the Asian girl's name was, and she's like holding the Desert Eagle, and it's like she doesn't have that, he has that. Like it's just like.
Are you guys talking about the scene where it's like the weapons montage where they're all trained on how to use the weapons?
Well, I mean they don't get any training. They just literally but
it's like we have to believe that they all know how to use all these weapons now.
Each one of them is very, very adept at murder.
And then they go on to use grenades in the worst way possible for the rest of the film.
Dude.
Like, I've never seen grenades used in a worse fashion. But
Kirk's like, don't worry, guys, I'll defend the front door. And it's like, wait, is someone whistling outside? I'm going to open the front door and then blow off the face of the building with dynamite for no reason.
Amanda, what are some of the notes that you wanted to bring up for House of the Dead?
Yeah, I don't know. This is freaking ridiculous. Like, raving during the day is a thing, first of all. I didn't know that.
let's go out to an island rave with 20 people at it. During the day.
And I think that...
It's not even an island. It's the woods.
It's the woods. It had some definite quintessential 2000s, late 90s looks, and it was fucking ridiculous. And the monsters were super fucking fake looking and cheesy with their, like, red glowing ass eyes.
The jumping zombies.
Yeah, and I think that character setup was just so fucking ridiculous. They were way too characterized. They super played up stereotypes. Nobody could deliver any good lines because there were no good lines. I think even if there was good lines in this, I don't think these actors were capable of, like, actually delivering some quality stuff. So I think this was kind of doomed from the beginning. And I think that when they were like, hey, there's all this scary shit going on, we're gonna go hide in the scariest fucking place possible in this ramshackle shack with a, like, cemetery around it. That seems like a good idea. Let's go do that. I just lost all credibility.
The boat is literally your only source of escape. And they get the weapon stash and then make no attempt to try to get to the boat using the weapon stash. It's like, let's take all these weapons and go inland. And I don't know.
I think if Resident Evil was done super shitty, this movie would have a chance. But, like, Resident Evil did right what this movie should have been trying to do, and incorporating the horror elements, incorporating the video gameplay, incorporating the characters. And I don't think it did any of that.
If the narration wasn't a tip-off that this film was going to be bad from the beginning, I did notice another sign that apparently is a bad omen for video game films. If you are watching a video game film and somewhere in the film they have something that has the logo of the video game or the video game company, that is a bad sign, because they show the Sega sign, and I knew it was going to be downhill.
This is a Sega-sponsored rave. What are you talking about?
That's why it's during the day.
Ooh.
So bad. And who makes tea naked when aboard a boat full of strangers?
And that is totally cool when creepy first mate guy shows up. It's just like, hey, I tied some chicken bones into a cross, and she's like, oh, thank you. Here's my boobies.
And I also like two other things that I got to point out real quick. We talked about the physical land masses and whatnot. I like the fact that the cop says, drop me off on the other side of the island, to which we are then apparently led to believe that this island is the smallest island ever known to man, because she is instantly with the people that she was looking at. Like, drop me off on the other side of the island, and then apparently I'm going to run like a marathon runner across the entire island to get to these people in the next scene. Like, that was quick. And the other thing, the ages of these actors, I don't know if the ages of the actors are also the ages that they were trying to depict, but it just didn't seem to match up. These people seemed like they were all 40-year-olds trying to act like 23-year-olds. And it just seemed like it was, I don't know, just a jarring thing to be like, well, why are the people here that are this age, like they're 40-year-olds going to this rave? So I was a little bit thrown off by that. And I forgot to mention the blood swipe screens were almost as bad as the video game cuts. So, Matt, what else do you have to say? What did we not... I mean, we could literally rip on this film probably for like 3 hours at least, and not even like have lulls in the conversation. But what are the main other things that you want to bring up about House of the Dead?
I don't know how the zombies happen. Like, how do zombies turn? Because, like, you see the actors literally get turned, right? Like there's the humpity bumpity couple where it's like he wants to pee in the tent, and she's like, don't pee in the tent, and so he does it. And then, like, she becomes a zombie within 2 minutes. But Kirk gets bit twice and never turns into a zombie. Right. So how do they turn zombies?
Only when it's convenient.
Oh, okay. Also, what the F is up with dude who's like, I'm gonna pee in the tent. Like, but then, like, she's like, don't pee in the tent. And so he doesn't go outside and just pee outside. He literally walks, like, 50 feet to find a porta potty. Like,
at that point, he would have just found a tree somewhere nearby.
I mean, really.
Dan, what other things do you think are worth mentioning about your experience with House of the Dead?
Worth mentioning. Man. Yeah, I can't even think of anything.
Did you like the blood?
I
on
blocked
the cop?
mostly.
The terrible fake blood on the cop. That was another highlight.
And then the end guy, which I'm like legitimately like with the worst makeup to make him look kind of dead. It was so awful. Oh man, it's just like I'm all for like there's those bad movies that are so bad that they're funny to watch, like Birdemic or something like that, or The Room. This isn't even that. It's just like seeing someone trying to be cool and it just ends up being awkward the entire time. So like I can't even get that much enjoyment out of it being so bad it's good. It's just bad, plainly bad.
Amanda, any final thoughts on House of the Dead that you want to leave us with? Gems, nuggets.
Don't watch it. Just go to the freaking arcade at the movie theater and shoot the zombies on the screen. Don't fuck with the movie. Stay away from it. Don't waste your time. Don't even put it on for a nap, okay?
Nah,
my
man,
question is, my biggest question, my final thought is, how does this have a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes? That means somebody wrote a positive review on this.
Did Mike watch this movie?
Oh, snap.
Did UA Bowl write his own review? Like, that means at least one individual wrote a positive. I don't know. It says it's based on 57 reviews. I'm not going to do the math real quick, but that means at least one person wrote a positive review.
It was a Japanese kid.
I think it might actually mean there were 2 positive reviews if I'm doing the math quick in my head. But
It was 2 Japanese kids.
like maybe someone did it ironically.
It just doesn't seem right.
But
I can
honestly,
see someone like what was that? There was that the infamous critic who was known for basically being the contrarian for everything. Like he would hate Toy Story 3 and love Norbert and stuff like that. So Almond White, I don't know if that's one who did it, but he was notorious for that, like praising old Sandler films as being like the best thing ever, and he just did it because I think he liked to make people mad. So it could be something like that, I guess.
Well, I guess one culprit could be if there was somebody writing reviews that were representing IGN, because apparently IGN gave it 3 out of 5 stars. An unabashed B movie that does an incredibly decent job with a limited budget, unknown cast, and routine storyline.
Incredibly decent. We all know that IGN doesn't like IGN reviews are bought and paid for, like literally. So like if they positive review, their lowest score on video games is like a 7. So like their actual things don't really matter.
So somebody paid for 2 good reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, so it didn't have a 0. But
well, the other guy is from Los Angeles Times. I'm like, that's a legit paper. So then that's just sad. So
and hopefully he's not still writing for them. But yeah, there's a director's cut of this film in case anybody's interested in. So,
does it include an apology?
New version features new dialogue, alternative takes, pop-up commentary, and animation from the original video game, more than apparently you got in the first one. Because that's what we were missing, more video game footage. Oh, man, this is awful. What is next? We have to do another UA Bowl movie next, I think.
Woo!
Oh, man. Hopefully we can survive and finish the video game spotlight, and hopefully we don't all abandon ship. But if you want to give us your take on House of the Dead, and if there's anybody out there that does not rate this as the worst video game film we have covered so far, please comment at geekcastradio.com or tweet us at Cinema Geekcast and let us know why this is not the worst film so far in the spotlight, because I cannot fathom anybody putting any of these other ones below it, and that's including some real dingers that we've watched so far. I mean, we're talking about.
It makes you. I mean, the benefit of like watching a movie like this, it makes you kind of like realize what a bad movie really is. Like you hear like films like, oh, that's an awful movie. You're like, no, this is an awful movie. Like,
right.
This is something I could see someone walking out of. And I think sometimes like it's good to watch a movie like this just to remind yourself, oh, this is what truly terrible looks like. So. Well,
yeah, you often hear people, because it's an easy thing to say, like, this is the worst film I've ever seen, or this is the worst film of the decade, and doing a lot of hyperbole. Folks, we're not doing that with this. There's no hyperbole involved. This is literally one of the worst films of all time.
I got a fun game.
Oh yeah.
Who's everyone's who does everyone think is the worst actor in this movie?
Oh, Jesus.
Who does the worst job? I want to know what everyone's opinion is on that.
It's got to be one of the main two guys at the beginning. I don't know if it's Simon and what's the other dude's name? Greg? I thought Simon and Greg were pretty bad, but that's like asking... I don't know.
I would argue that Coast Guard lady was the worst. Like,
yeah?
I was thinking that too.
So stilted.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I would think anybody. It's like a 50-way tie. Anybody besides Kirk and maybe Clint Howard, I guess. Even though I never understood his character's purpose, but
to be
stare at
creepy.
boobies and make crosses.
But outside of those two, I think it was a tie across the board with everybody else. So, man, that's brutal. All right, well, thanks for tuning in this time to a stellar review of our latest video game film, House of the Dead. Like I said, you can go to the website geekcastradio.com and leave your comments there, or you can tweet us at Cinema Geekcast. If you want to get in touch with us each individually, there's a way to do that too. Amanda, how would someone get in touch with you on Twitter?
You can find me at Hard Candy Mandy, eyes, no lies.
And Jan, how can people get a hold of you on Twitter?
I'm at Mover Revolt.
Matt?
I am at Fridley Scent.
And I am at Optimus Solo. So leave us your thoughts. Besides that, tune in next time for another chance to listen to more video game fun with the Cinema Geeks.